A Plague Tale Requiem is a sequel to one of my favorite games from 2019, what I feel is a hidden gem in A Plague Tale Innocence. Now, A Plague Tale Requiem is much bigger in scope, but it doesn't really lose any of the magic that the original had, and it's still very linear, no nonsense, no filler, which I really appreciate in a video game these days, especially with all these bloated open worlds. It's also a big step up in quality, and it feels like maybe an Assassin's Creed to Assassin's Creed 2 level jump, or Uncharted to Uncharted 2 level jump in a sequel. Let's jump into the review. I'm going to be using the 7 Ps method, which is playing, plot, people, places, picture, fun, and pop. So let's jump into the review and talk about A Plague Tale Requiem. Shout out to the guys at sandboxstrat for providing me with the review code for the game. Let's do this thing. So we're going to start with the playing / the gameplay, and I feel like in A Plague Tale Requiem there is much more options in playstyle. You can fight a lot of guys head on now, albeit it's still not easy, and if they have a helmet, at the start at least, it's pretty much impossible. But you do have a skill tree of 3 different options, including stealth, basically a stealth style, an aggressive style, and an alchemical style. You level up each one based on how you play. You have a choice to be aggressive or to be stealthy. You can get through most areas without fighting, or you can bait people into certain areas, use an extinguisher on their torch, and then get them killed by rats without being spotted, or you can take people head on. It's all up to you, which I really appreciate. There's definitely some variety in gameplay, and it kind of opens up as you go through the game as well. The game can be quite frustrating in parts, but it's very satisfying when you get it right in stealth. The combat, as I said, opens up as you get a crossbow and you get more alchemical ammo to really kind of buff up Amicia. At the start, she is pretty useless against a lot of enemies, but she learns on the way and definitely becomes more useful in combat. There's lots of different ways to kill or maim your enemies, or just, as I said, you can sneak on by if you prefer. There's always new and evolving ways to fight enemies as you progress through the game and travel with different characters. Like, you can use Tar to light a big grunt that has a fire weapon on fire, and he'll basically explode, but you have to take his armor off to really actually kill him. You can push people into a horde of rats, and you can just straight up murder fools with the crossbow. And you get a skill as well later on where you can pick back up the ammo that you get from the crossbow, which is ridiculously OP, because the crossbow, when you do have it, you have limited ammo. You can only use it sparingly, but once you get that ability to pick the ammo back up, you can just fire away with the crossbow, and it's a one-shot, one-kill on pretty much every enemy except for the big grunt guys. In the gameplay, you will use more than just Amicia's wits and skills. You'll use Hugo and other characters to help you fight, and they will fight alongside you and all help you in different ways, which is really cool. Hugo can help attack people with rats, while others can fight enemies head to head while you try and flank them and take them out in a different way. Each character you journey with has a purpose and a useful skill or ability to help you along the way. Like, even to traverse through certain areas, you'll be able to use Sophia's ability or Lucas's ability, or Arno will be able to fight people so that you can focus on other stuff while he's doing that, which is absolutely dope. And this is something that A Plague Tale Requiem does much better than other games where you have kind of a sidekick. It really does make you utilize your companions in a meaningful way. So that about covers the gameplay. I definitely think it's a big step up from A Plague Tale Innocence, and it evolves as you go through the game, and you really, towards the end, start to feel like you've learned a lot over the course of the journey throughout the game. So next up is the plot / story. A Plague Tale Requiem is a story about loss. It's a story about grief, friendships, and love, and it really does a great job of making each one of these feel authentic along your journey. The game takes you on a journey across France to try and get help for your younger brother who's still struggling with the effects of the macula. The game starts off all happy and it feels like you've got past it. It feels like you're in a good place, but you can feel almost right away that you know it won't last long and bad things are coming your way. It doesn't take long until that happens. Amicia and Hugo have a special connection, and you can can feel that in the game 100%. You can feel it right away. But the good thing about this game is you also connect with many more characters along the way, which is something I feel it does a lot better than its predecessor. Each character you meet leaves a lasting impact on the story, even if they're not in it for too long. The game overall is just much more brutal than A Plague Tale Innocence. It feels like an evolution of the series. Amicia can fight back, and she's a killer in this game. Literally. She's clearly struggling with that as well, and struggling with what's happening to Hugo, which really rubs off on her, and you can feel the struggle within her throughout the whole game, while she at the same time is trying to keep Hugo afloat while he deals with the guilt of what he's done and what he's doing and what he's going through. The game is just overall dark and much more than I was expecting it to be honest. It's really grim and gruesome, and you feel the weight of the decisions on these characters' shoulders, and it doesn't feel nice in a lot of parts. You feel really bad for these characters in certain scenarios. And the backstory then will have a couple of characters named Aelia and Basilius, and they've gone through something similar beforehand. And that storyline gets ultra depressing as well, but I definitely think that this added something to the game. Overall, the story will definitely leave a lasting imprint on me that I won't soon forget. I'm going to try avoid spoilers for you guys, but by the end, I was absolutely shocked at some of the twists and turns throughout the game. And as I said, without giving away too much, I feel like this isn't the end of the franchise, but it might be going in a whole new direction. So next up, we're going to go on to the people/characters. We'll start with Amicia, as she is the main character. This is a story about Amicia's journey, and she is an emotional and angry teenager, and it's understandable as she's going through an insane amount of grief and just stress, and the person she loves most is suffering throughout the whole game. But as Hugo, at the start of the game, Hugo as well, who's probably like the secondary character, I wouldn't say Hugo is on the same tier as Amicia. I feel like this game is about Amicia, but Hugo is definitely the biggest part of the journey, and he's a happy-go-lucky, slightly annoying kid. At least at the start, he's happy-go-lucky and slightly annoying. He does have superpowers as well, which integrate into the story quite a bit. But yeah, you see his mood kind of slowly deteriorate throughout this game, and it really is an insanely sad watch. Lucas, who is a recurring character from A Plague Tale Innocence, is a bigger part of the game than he was in Innocence. I feel like he was pretty forgettable in A Plague Tale Innocence, but in this one, it really feels like he brings a needed sense of calmness to counter and quell Amicia's anger. And Amicia really seems to love and listen to Lucas as well. He's a really wholesome young man, and he just deserves the best, honestly. Our mother is in the game a decent amount. It seems like she's honestly just there to kind of beef with Amicia and counteract what Amicia is doing. But towards the end, I feel like her character does have a deeper meaning and impact. There's a character called Phon as well, who's just an absolute wanker at the start of the game. That guy made me incredibly mad. Arnau as well, who starts out as a bit of a villain. He turns out to be a much deeper character, and that was really super satisfying and surprising. It's not just, at the start it was like he was just going to be a dickhead grunt, but there's so much more than that, and I feel like that's kind of a theme with this game. A lot of the characters that I thought at the start were not going to be very important to the story at all really turned out to have an impact on the story and on the characters as well. Even characters with short cameos like Joseph, it all seems like just a smooth part of the journey. And Sophia, who I thought at first would have a small cameo like Joseph, turns out to be a much bigger part of the story and really helps Amicia and Hugo to mature. And that's something that I just really love about this game. The characters like Arnau and Sophia really help Amicia grow as a person, and you can see that throughout the game. You can see the growth of her character. And the only other two characters probably worth mentioning are the Count and the Countess. They're pretty much like cult leaders, and the moment you meet them, they seem really nice, but you just know in the back of your mind that something's off about these weirdos, and you could feel it right away just from the way they're like overly nice and the way they talk to you. It's just a little creepy, and I think they wanted you to kind of know a little bit that these were eerie characters. Overall, a small cast of characters for the game, but all of them leave an impact on the story, which is something that's hard to do in video games now. It kind of almost feels like a Last of Us scenario in that way, where all of the characters really affect the story and the arc of the characters. So now on to the fourth P, which is places. A Plague Tale Requiem feels like a true journey with a meaning and a purpose, and it always feels like you're on the move as well. Through France cities and countryside, through the river, by the ocean, the island, which was probably my favorite place in the game, which just had activities and atmospheres that made you feel like you were visiting a new culture. But also the island probably had some of the worst pacing for the game, in my opinion. As it was just a little bit too big and open, and there was too much traveling from place to place, completing a menial objective and then traveling again, all while moving pretty slowly, because you don't have like a mount in this game or anything, and there is a lot of traveling. Me and Robin were discussing this, my good friend Robin Oyo, who's going to be doing a review for this game as well, but he said a horse would have been handy in this area, and that's something that I couldn't agree more with. But once you get past this part that I'm talking about on the island, it goes back to being great pacing wise, and some of the places you see at the end of the game are visually stunning. There's a big variety of places throughout this game, which I can really appreciate. As I said, it kind of, again, you can definitely feel the Naughty Dog's effect rub off on this game. It feels like Uncharted, where you're going from place to place to place, and they're all just absolutely stunningly beautiful. Yeah, you just go through the river, by the ocean, through the ocean, on the ocean, to the island and back. It's just, it all goes and transitions smoothly. Now we'll go on to the picture, aka the graphics, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the performance as well. So definitely really improved graphics over A Plague Tale Innocence, and I'd hope so. It's on a new console, but it really does feel like a next-gen title, and the game, for a team of Asobo Studios size to match top games for visuals, is quite impressive, I must say. There is some performance issues and hiccups that I had. I was playing on Xbox Series X, but nothing major, honestly, and a lot less noticeable when I turned motion blur off, so I would highly recommend doing that at the start of your playthrough. So now we're on to the Phon, P-H-O-N / sounds and music, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of the game. It's one of my favorite soundtracks in a long time. It sets the tone and atmosphere really well, and they seem to find the perfect song to capture each moment, and that's something that is just irreplaceable, man. The music for each moment really adds to the scenes, and it makes you feel incredibly hyped in certain moments and also incredibly sad in others. And the music, as I said, just adds so much to the game. I definitely am going to have to try and get some of that music on a Spotify playlist. In terms of voice acting as well, I did think the voice acting was good. I will say there's certain scenes and scenarios where it does feel a little bit overacted, maybe specifically from Amicia herself, and don't get me wrong, I think the character is amazing and it's played really well as well, but there's certain scenarios where I'm like, all right, just calm down a little bit, you know, I can understand it because they are going through an insane amount of stuff throughout this game, where some of the stuff just does feel a little bit overacted for Hugo and Amicia in particular. But generally, the lip sync, the voice acting, I would say is good to pretty good. And now we are on to the final P, which is the pop / the wow factor. And I haven't mentioned this before now because I feel like it just deserved its own category, and that is the rats. The rats in this game just makes you really go wow, and that's why I had to leave this for the wow factor. The amount of rats on screen at certain points is absolutely horrifying. There's certain scenes that absolutely terrify you, and there's certain ones that make you feel really uneasy as you're going through certain areas and trying to navigate from light to light while getting past the rats. If you run out of light in certain areas, you're dead. They'll overwhelm you in a second, just like that. You have to have light at all times, and it's kind of like keeping the light away from the rats, staying out of the darkness. It's a bigger theme than just for that alone. Like, it does have bigger implications to the story as well. And the rats are honestly a big part of the game. They're not just there for show. I never felt like they overdid it either. I didn't at any point get sick of them or feel like it was too much. And as I said, they weren't just there for show, they were a part of the story, and they're a part of Hugo's story specifically. Overall, I think A Plague Tale Requiem took me about 16 hours to beat, and it was one of my most enjoyable experiences of the year for sure. I think Horizon Forbidden West is just gonna edge this out for Game of the Year, but it's 100% up there. It's a big step up from A Plague Tale Innocence, and I would give this game a 25 out of 30. It's not perfect, there is some things that could definitely be improved upon, but it's damn good, and I'm really excited for you guys to check it out for yourselves and see what you think. Let me know what you think of the review. If there's any way I can improve these reviews or do things differently, you let me know. Thanks for the support, guys, really means a lot. Check out my playthrough. I did a full playthrough of A Plague Tale Requiem. I'm gonna probably be uploading that over the next few days, so thank you for the support. Make sure you subscribe to the Apex Hound 2 here. I'll be doing a lot more reviews in the coming months. We got Gotham Knights coming up, we got the Call of Duty campaign, we got God of War, Ragnarok. There's a lot of big games, both towards the end of this year and the start of next year, and I want to get this Apex Hound 2 channel popping off and off the ground, up and running. So thank you for the support. Apologies if I was a little bit muddled throughout this review, but I'm trying to piece my thoughts together. I did just finish the game today. Maybe I'll feel a little bit differently and have thoughts towards the end of the weekend. But thank you guys for watching, really appreciate it. It's been my pleasure to serve you all, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.